What does Lethal Company hide off camera from the player on the moon's Assurance, Vow, Offense, and March? Lethal Company is a terrifying and comedic multiplayer horror roguelite where you and some friends must fly to various abandoned moons to collect junk while working for a very questionable company. Today, we'll be taking a look at some stuff we're not typically supposed to see, and we'll also be heading out of bounds for a bit. We'll be breaking some things along the way as usual, like taking a shrink ray to this poor defenseless Coilhead. Isn't he so cute? So I hope you enjoy this look behind the scenes of Lethal Company. As usual, I typically hit you guys with a very brief summary of the game, so when you start a game, you're able to go directly to the following moons right at the start. We explored experimentation previously while covering a lot of the base mechanics in the game, so we'll be traveling to the others I just listed. That being said, Lethal Company is a co-op game, so as soon as you land, you and some random players, or your friends, run out of the ship and try to enter the facility on that particular moon. Each moon has similarities and differences, so traversing to the buildings on these moons will vary. One of your teammates can stay on the ship as they view a map and assist you from within the ship, while the others brave the unknown and try to retrieve scrap without dying. As the day progresses, things become more dangerous as more entities spawn. There are also the elements of the environment to consider as well, so hurry back to the ship before it takes off and leaves you behind. You then take your scrap over to Jeb at the company, make your quota, and head out for another awful day on the job. Before we start our trip to these moons, I want to see what happened if we made our ship bigger. I started with making it longer, and it resulted with my player growing long arms as I clipped through the map and died. Coming back, I realized that I did successfully make the ship longer, but I Slendermaned myself in the process. When I changed the size of the ship, I was also doing the same to my player, given I accidentally was changing the scale of multiple things, resulting in this weird stretched out dimension I trapped myself in. I made the mistake of grabbing the clipboard, because in the end, it softlocked me. Needless to say, it was a funny experience. How am I supposed to read this dang thing? Restarting, I tried again, making the ship overall bigger. This time I managed to keep my player model as the original size. This ship is beefy. The store's terminal and even the suits are all out of place due to this size change. It's comical because it appears as if I shrunk my character, when in fact I didn't. Speaking of being shrunk, I took a massive ship and made it a ship for ants. When the ship comes in for its landing, you can see all the interactive objects floating outside of it. Shrinking the ship the same way I originally did by mistake shrank me as well. And as you can see, I have to use the ladder in order to get back on the ship. While a small boy, I took myself into the facility and tried to round up some scrap. As you probably would guess, grabbing these normal sized items is goofy looking as I attempt to carry them with my small stature. Grabbing the engine shows just how awful this would be if we played as tiny employees. I feel like a one Pikmin army. I mean, I wasn't even able to get any big scrap back on the ship, making this experimental run a complete fail. I took it one step further and decided to take another piece of scrap, a flask, and make it huge. I then carried this gigantic item to the ship. However, putting the item into the ship automatically makes the item reset to its default size. More than likely, since these items are copied to a different area in memory, so we can fly away without them vanishing, as the scene file for this moon unloads in the Unity engine. Enough of these shenanigans though, let's head off to some different moons. So we'll go ahead and just go down the list of moons on this terminal and start with Assurance. This moon has jagged and weathered terrain. It also has large pumpkins scattered all about, which is odd. Going up for an aerial view, we can get a better look at the layout of this rocky moon. As you can see, both the main entrance and fire exit are not terribly far from our ship. You'll notice that the skybox is a Google Maps image like I pointed out before. But the real question is, can Rainbolt find where this is at on Earth? The same image is used for all the moon skyboxes to my knowledge. However, the skybox does slightly change when there is a weather effect for that particular moon. Half of the original skybox gets covered with cloud formations, as you can see. The colors of these clouds vary, being based on what the weather effect is, whether it's an eclipse or stormy day, etc. While checking this out, I noticed what appeared to be Christmas lights and a star ornament floating way up here in the sky. These items are in every level, located in the same spot. Speculating on what this is exactly for, I realized that this is actually the holiday decorations that have been added to the dropship that brings the player store-bought items. Once making an order, you can see the ship spawn right where the star and lights are, as it plummets down to make its landing. 'Tis the season, yeah? Getting back to Assurance though, following this ladder up will lead the player onto this rock, where they can then jump over to the pipes and make their way to the fire exit. Nearby this fire exit, I noticed a lone ladder out of bounds within this area of the rocky terrain. So I managed to get out here and discovered it is in fact a ladder that you're able to interact with and climb. I found this to be interesting, as it did help me get back up on this ledge within the level. Continuing on, I clipped my way through this rugged landscape with not much else going on out of bounds. However, like in the previous areas, we can find the remaining unused player models extremely far away. Just like on experimentation, the interior of the facility is actually located way beneath the map, and not at the surface. The player simply gets teleported down here. This interior is known as the industrial variant, which is the only one we've encountered so far. There is a mansion variant, but there's a very small chance of getting it in these easier levels. I never encountered it, so I guess we'll just have to wait until we get to those more difficult moons, where it's much more likely to generate. Moving forward, a lot of the enemies we encounter here include most of the creatures we ran into on experimentation, but I did make some new friends. A baboon hawk. It was my first encounter with one, and I didn't really know what to expect, so I ran like the wind. However, in another encounter, I got a closer look, and this monster looks like an ape with a hawk-like beak and wings that don't appear to work. Appropriately named. I noticed in my first encounter it grabbed my loot that I had dropped and brought it to his buddy. So you can add thief to its resume too. The hoarder bug does this as well, and it's both hilarious and irritating, but I digress. Eventually I found myself face to face with this abomination, and as you can see, it was not an ideal situation to be in. The creature is normally aggressive if it's in a pack that outnumbers the players, or if the players pursue them. As you can see, I was looking for trouble, and I paid the price though. It ended up carrying my body away, where it then curled up and laid on my corpse, making me its cold, dead snuggle buddy. Before heading to the next moon, I decided to go into big boy mode and attempt to enter the facility. As you can see, I'm clearly too big, and I can't even reach the door to access it. So much for that idea. Moving down the list, the next moon we're heading off to is Vow. This moon, teeming with plant life as it says, is a forest moon. Not that forest moon. Vow stretches out with green terrain, as you can see. Making a right as you exit the ship will lead you to this moon's facility. This building appears to be a nuclear power plant, and is quite large in size. Taking a peek inside this building reveals the obvious at this point, because we all now know that the interior of the facility sits way down below. I feel like the location of the extra multiplayer models are much further out compared to the previous moons, but regardless, it's deep. If you didn't know already, this bridge can be risky to cross throughout the day and can potentially break. It actually took a minute before it began shaking for me. Heading down into the industrial interior, I encounter a new friend, the Bracken. The Bracken is a spooky, stalker type of creature. If given the chance, these horrific monsters will sneak right up behind you and snap your neck. It's obviously a one-hit kill and comes without warning. The best way to survive these guys is by constantly watching your back. If you only glance at them, you should be okay, but staring at them can cause them to go Enderman on a player. Getting a clearer view of this Samfish wannabe is great, as it snaps my player's neck. Nothing like some good old Splinter Cell fun. Going back outside, I had my first run-in with this large, mighty creature known as the Forest Keeper. Normally, you'll hear these monsters before you see them due to their loud footsteps. Their eyesight has quite the range, and once a player is in their sight, they'll chase you down and proceed to viciously eat you. Rest in peace, friend. I was next on the menu, but I chose a worse fate as I fell into the water. Clearly, we do not know how to swim, so I stand by as my player drowns, joining my friend in the afterlife. I messed around with this particular Forest Keeper and made it much bigger than it needs to be, and the results are as terrifying as they sound. It's quite a helpless feeling while standing next to this beast. However, eventually it picks me up firmly with its pinky, preparing to make me its next snack. Once being eaten, you can see the player model within, as blood begins to shoot out. But the player model does disappear, and as you can see, we're left with a monster doing Triple H's signature spray with our blood. But let's slow things down for a bit. Someone's gonna die on the next moon, so let's chill for a second and relax. And I got the perfect thing for that. Introducing Backbone, the sponsor of today's video. Snap your iPhone or Android into this adjustable Backbone 1 controller, and suddenly you'll actually be able to move like a normal gamer in mobile games. No more swiping your screen furiously to turn, or clicking on stuff you didn't mean to because your fingers are too big for your body. Just grab your phone, slide it in, and snap into your favorite game. Utilize Xbox Game Pass, PlayStation Remote Play, Apple Arcade, Netflix games, Steam Link, and more through their native apps. The sheer amount of gaming versatility this controller adds to your phone is honestly really cool. The Backbone 1 basically turns your phone into a console, and with the Backbone app, you'll have a hub for all your mobile gaming. The Backbone app is available through their Backbone Plus subscription, and with it, you can capture video clips with a click of a button, consolidate all your games into one spot, redeem in-game rewards, and tons of other great features. So turn your phone into a console gaming hub today by grabbing a Backbone at playbackbone.com or by clicking my link in the description below. And a big thanks to Backbone for supporting me as a creator. Moving on from Vow, we're going to head to the next moon, Offense. This moon is a desert, similar to Assurance, but curiously, it's flooding for this particular instance. Going up and out, you can see the water surrounding this initial map. Beyond this moat is the same situation as the previous moons, with it being vacant space, along with the extra player models out here in the Great Beyond. The layout of the intended play area is almost like a horseshoe, making the players have to go around the center of the map to reach the main entrance. I don't know if it's a coincidence, but just like the other desert moon, this one also has a random ladder, which if reached, can also be climbed. However, outside of that, not much took place during my visit to this moon, but I did get a chance to take a closer look at the machine gun turret. This turret will lock on the player if you enter its field of view, marking you with a laser before shooting. I encountered a pretty chaotic scene while playing with a friend that involved this machine gun. They ended up getting wrapped up by a snare flea, which induced a panic, and before I knew it, a machine gun turret spots my friend and, well, finishes the job that the snare flea started, making for a hilarious but tragic incident. On that note, I think it's time to head to the next moon, March. This moon is similar to Vow, with it being a forest moon. Making the visibility more clear, you can see the layout of the level, with the main entrance being here and the fire exit being able to spawn in the following locations. With this fire exit, you better hope it isn't flooding that day, otherwise you'll definitely drown trying to use this door. I heavily explored the rest of this outer area of the moon with no findings of anything particularly new. The player models are here of course, but unfortunately that's it. However, I did have a run-in with a new creature in the facility. They are called coil heads. These lanky mannequins don't fully have arms and have a coil neck, making for nightmarish bobblehead fun. Like the Bracken, coil heads are a stalker type enemy, but as long as you're looking at them, they'll freeze in place. So remember to always be watching your back, or you'll end up losing your head. Literally. When the coil head ends up killing a player, the player's head is sprung off their body. It's probably one of my favorite ways a player dies in the game, if I'm gonna be honest. I messed around a bit with this creature's size, realizing I wouldn't be able to even fully see this monstrosity, as it clips to the ceiling. So I took a different approach and shrank it instead. Can you imagine these guys were normally this small? They would be able to sneak around so much more easily, that's for sure. It's now time to talk about this weird-looking enemy known as Thumper. These mangled upper bodies with shark-like heads cannot hear, so staying out of their line of sight can prevent attacks. It takes a few hits, but the Thumper will kill you with his vicious bites. Once dead, it will proceed to nom-nom on the player's corpse. I figured we'd try something different this time and spawn in 100 Thumpers. I didn't quite get to 100 of these guys in here, but I got a lot. It was like a mosh pit in this hallway, filled with flailing torsos. There's a landmine in the area that they ended up pushing me on, resulting in quite a few Thumper deaths. Needless to say, this got out of hand real quick, and I decided to end it all and just fall to my death. Oh yeah, I'm invulnerable. Huh, what a lovely pit of death. Quite the predicament we found ourselves in, I must say. But with that, this concludes our game-breaking experience on the moons Assurance, Vow, Offense, and March. There are 3 more moons to explore that harbor other creatures we have not come across yet. With this most recent update, I see we have new enemies and items that have been added. So subscribe now if you don't want to miss my future video on that, and I'll see you all soon. Cheers!